Thank you so much for listening to Blue Sky Radio. My name is Jenny. This is at Radio Waterloo. You can find us online at radiowaterloo.ca and also CKMS 102.7 here in Kitchener and Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. I'm really happy today. We have with us again Stephen Quon, and he's a photographer who specializes on horses, and he also does videography. And we have spoken with him in the past, and now we're going to be getting some updates because the year has been quite exciting for Stephen. So, hi Stephen, and thank you so much for coming on Blue Sky Radio, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
That's so awesome. So do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners today?
You bet. Well, obviously, my name is Stephen Quon, and I'm, like you said, I'm an equestrian video and stills photographer based out of Calgary, Alberta. I offer equine portraiture, equine show pictures, and equine videography in the form of promotional videos, documentaries, and raw video. I've been doing this for just about a year and a half now, and I love what I do and do what I love. Just looking to expand and take things to new heights from here.
Wow, that's really amazing. Well, I follow your page on Facebook, and just based on the photography alone, it's really obvious that you are really well-rounded equine photographer. You get into the equestrian and wild horses, and you've recently been to Dubai as well, which we're going to be speaking about in a moment. But what made you get into photography and videography?
Well, filmmaking, in other words, videography was the later of the two to pique my interest. I got into it in my late 20s as I spent a good portion of my career as a filmmaker and doing content creation while learning the ropes of how to tell stories through the power of storytelling. And then my interest in photography has been rather interesting because I've always been fascinated by this very special craft or hobby to many out there. I've just never really pursued it because up until horses, I've never found a subject that I had a real passion for. So I was never into photography as a kid. I started off finding my interest in, by taking pictures, just casual, general pictures of people that I knew, friends and family. Mm-hmm. And eventually it led to me doing a handful of weddings, or just over a year or so before I stopped doing it. And that's when I realized that, the wedding genre wasn't for me. But then when I got introduced to horses about 6 years ago, I knew immediately that this was my number one passion, and over time I started taking pictures of horses, learning the ropes of them, because obviously it was a completely new and unfamiliar subject for me. And then over time, this is when the dots started to connect, and when I discovered that my passionate subject was horses. And then over time, this is when I had, friends convinced me, or just obviously talked to me about doing this professionally, and I wasn't at first. I didn't see it, but as time went on, I eventually realized and saw that hey, there was some potential here, and I could, if I put the effort in and wrote my business plan, I could really make something happen. So I was just patient with it. And it took a lot of thinking, because it definitely wasn't an overnight decision where I said, okay, I'm going to run a business, the next day and so on. Mm-hmm. So I had to make sure that, I was capable of it. And I think over probably the stretch of 6 to 8 months, I saw that I was willing to do this professionally and to do this for a business. So, but it was well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really incredible. Your professionalism is something that's always really stood out to me when I see your photos, and I know how hard you work, and you truly a professional. It put a lot of passion into your craft, so that's really awesome to be able to watch and follow you. And you have a lot of followers too. I've noticed it's really grown. People really love your photography.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And that's the number one thing for me, is that I want to photograph what people want to see and what my audience want to see. And it's not about what I want. It's not necessarily about what I want to photograph, but I want to cater to my audience. I want to cater to new set of eyes, and eyes that have been around for a while, and stuff that they're familiar with, and new stuff that they've never seen.
So where did you study?
I'm self-taught. I actually didn't study anywhere, so I basically started by reading books and watching a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of videos, because back then YouTube wasn't near as big as it is now.
Yeah.
But I've read a lot of books, and I've learned from, I wouldn't say quite a few, probably a few professional photographers back then, but they were very general, so they were the portrait photographers or wedding photographers, but I learned the basics through hands-on.
All right. Well, what area of your work do you enjoy the most?
Well, I try not to choose favorites, and to be honest with you, I truly love it all, and that's I truly believe it's because it has to do with my number one passion in life, and that's horses.
Yeah.
But the one that really stands out to me the most is equine portraiture, and the reason why is because there's just something magical about capturing the partnership between a horse and its owner, learning about their personalities and the connection that they have. So out of them all, that's the one that I really feel that is unique, just because you really connect with the horse, and you connect with the owner on a different level than you would than I would say any other service that I currently offer.
That's really beautiful. I like that. So you just went to Dubai recently, and I've seen some of your photos, and I know people who follow you have seen photos. But do you want to share some of your experience on how your trip came about?
Oh, sure. Yes, I was recently in Dubai. I received an invitation from the Dubai International Horse Fair back in February of this year, and I just knew immediately once that opportunity came about, it didn't take me long to make a decision that I had to jump on it, because I knew that Dubai is a country that not a lot of people necessarily get to go to, and whether they're professional photographer, they do equine, photography and so on. But it's a country that obviously a lot of people are familiar with. But in terms of the horse world, though, it's very new to a lot of people, and I felt that that it was just an opportunity that I had to jump on, and I had to accept, because it's perhaps one that may not come about again, and I just felt that it was at that time it was nothing but a win-win situation, right?
So what was your focus while you were there?
Well, there was the fair, obviously, and then there was Dubai Arabian Horse Stud, which they are a breeder of Arabian horses, and one of the top two breeders in Dubai, Dubai World Cup. But for the most part, my focus there was to capture as much as I could about the horse culture over in Dubai, to share with my audience, with Albertans, and then vice versa, share the Alberta horse world with the Emirates and people in Dubai. Now, of course, I had some other stuff on my to-do list as well, but they didn't either didn't pan out, or they were primarily in my backup plan.
So what was your experience like?
In terms of overall?
Well, yeah, I guess in general, like coming to Dubai, I mean, it's really awesome to hear that you actually wanted to share something of Albertan and the horses as well. But yeah, it's a very different country, and I guess, yeah, with the horse world, like what was your experience seeing the horses?
Oh, the horses, they're absolutely amazing. The level of care and the amount of attention that they get in terms of their health and wellness is just, in my opinion, just as good as anywhere in Alberta or even Canada or any other country that, treats horses, with the absolute top level of primary care. And the horses there, in my opinion, they're very unique because, like when you look at the Arabians, they're very different from the ones that you would see in North America, because the ones over there, obviously they have the dished faces, and then you just, you don't see that in North America. But also, just in general, like I would say the horses over there are just, I mean, they're amazing. I mean, everything from, you know, their mane and tails to their colors and their coats and their conformations, and it's really a sight that I think someone has to see in person to just really acknowledge just how special the horses are over there. And I could see, you know, it makes you immediately see just why the Emirates and the people in Dubai are so in love with horses, because it shows in their work and the amount of time and energy that they commit to, you know, their horses and taking care of them and so on.
So, regarding the racetrack, do you want to talk a bit about that and the horses there?
Oh, sure. Well, the ones on the racetrack, I didn't really notice anything different about the thoroughbreds at the ones at the racetrack in Dubai, and perhaps that's because I didn't spend enough time at the track while in Dubai, since I was only at the track for, well, just 1.5 day for the race, and then you know, a couple hours prior. But also a large portion of the horses that competed in the past Dubai World Cup from this year were from the U.S. So, but you know, I just thought the whole experience of just, for me, in terms of being at the track, I felt was amazing. I mean, just watching these guys go to the warm-up ring and then go through the parade ring afterwards. You know, go to the track. There's one aspect that I wish I would have been able to, I would say, maximize, and I wasn't able to just due to other issues that we had, was I wish I was able to spend time during the warm-ups, because there was race day, but there was also, most of the horses arrived that week or even the week prior, because they had to go there and they had to warm up in the days leading up to the race. And that was about 3 or 4 days, so that's 3 or 4 solid mornings of these jockeys, you know, doing warm-ups on the track, and that would have given me a lot more opportunity to really acknowledge and see how these horses are different from the ones in North America. But unfortunately, that didn't work out, and I wasn't able to. I wasn't at the track for any of the morning warm-ups, which I would have loved to, because I could notice a lot of the little things and the fine attention to detail and so on.
I guess, you know, like with anything, there's more that we want and more goals and things like that. But the photography that you got is also really amazing. And I mean, I guess the experience of being a tourist sometimes is that, like, there's a lot of things that sometimes we can't choose. I mean, coming to another country, and sometimes it's like a very real life experience. So, and there you are being a professional photographer. So good for you to like make the trip. Takes a lot of courage to do what you did, and you know, the response for your photography has been amazing, and people love your photography. And I'm curious about, out of the pictures that you took while you were in Dubai, do you have any favorite ones or favorite moments that you captured?
Oh, geez, there's so many favorites that I have collected from Dubai, and that's because I really enjoyed my time there, even though it was brief. 15 days, I believe, or 16 days I was there.
Yeah.
I have at least a handful from the Dubai World Cup, but the ones that really stand out to me the most are the equine portraiture ones that I took out in the desert. Though there were only a handful, the experience of just going about photographing an individual of a completely different culture and their horse in an unfamiliar foreign environment is one that is tough to describe in just a few words, because it's ultimately an amazing experience and one that I will never forget. And it just, every second that you take, and it's new and it's a learning experience, and it's one that's, like I said earlier, you know, you may not know if it'll come again. And it just adds an entirely different dimension to your work when you capture someone with their horses who's from a completely different culture, different on the other side of the world, and so on. And it really boosts the appeal when it comes to your work and drawing eyes on an international stage.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. So what's next for you? What adventures coming up in the future for you?
Well, right now it's too early to say. I try not to look too far ahead and get get ahead of myself. But for the next while, I'm going to be at home doing a lot of local stuff. So that means, stuff within Alberta. And then I still have to continue working away at just little things that I have on a business plan in terms of expanding and working towards those long-term goals.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your photography and all of the rest at Quon Adventures. While you were in Dubai, did things pan out the way that you had wished?
Yes and no. It panned out in that 3 of the scheduled events did work out, but the 4th one was, in my opinion, was a disappointment. And disappointments are very much going to happen at any given time. Like I always say, always expect unexpected. And I think the biggest thing during my trip was that I was sick the entire time. So as I caught a bug on the way to Dubai, which is unfortunate. Throughout the entire time I was working away, but then I had all these symptoms and issues on the side that I had to deal with, and that definitely is a factor, and it does drag you down in terms of your energy and so on. But even though I was sick the entire time and it made some activities to be a real challenge, my time there was full of valuable learning experiences moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. And I'm sorry to hear that you caught a bug. That's
okay.
Does test your resilience and I guess dedication to what you're doing, and it does show in your photos. So I guess that's definitely would have been one of the low points. And the high points, I think you've mentioned in the whole interview. It sounds like an amazing experience to visit Dubai and to. How can people see your photos? Do you have any private viewings, or do you have any public viewings coming up?
I don't have any public viewings as of right now, not scheduled as of right now, no. But if people wanted to see my photos, the best way, as I always suggest, is to go on my website, www.stephenquon.com, and pretty much everything is on there. I put quite a bit of time into my website to make it, the most presentable and simplest way that I feel is most attractive to the viewers. And then you can view all my work on Facebook as well, because pretty much 100% of my work that goes on my website goes on my Facebook as well, because just because I have such a big audience on there. And then Instagram. I don't post near as much stuff on Instagram just because I can do a lot of blog stuff on Instagram, and Instagram's not meant for blogging and stuff like that. So website is probably the biggest thing, and Facebook if you want that social interaction. Yeah.
I wanted to add too, I like how you let your fans sometimes decide which photo you are going to have a special display of, or anything like that. I like that, and people can get involved, and it's so difficult sometimes to pick a favorite photo, and they're really diverse, wild horses or some more equestrian themes. I really like that aspect of what you do.
Well, thank you.
Do you want to talk about your high points or low points from your experience or your traveling in Dubai?
Sure. Well, the biggest highlight, the biggest high point for me, obviously, was I would say was the Dubai World Cup. This almost went right down the tubes at the last moment, so that would have been the lowest point had it did happen. Otherwise, that was for sure my highest point. Aside from that was, I would say, Dubai Stud. The fair were obviously both high points. I really enjoyed my time there. And I loved sharing my experiences at the fair and at Dubai Stud with my audience, and I felt that I really opened some eyes for those who may not have known too much about the horse world in Dubai. But I also had a few low points as well. In fact, some really low points, and I won't go too much in detail about them because I've moved on from them. And to me, that's the number one thing about facing adversity, is forgetting about your low points and moving on from them as a learning experience.
Wow. Those are words of wisdom right there. I love that. And what about photographing wild horses? You are somebody who had done that a few times now.
And photographing wild horses is one of my most enjoyable things, and that's because I have such a deep passion for these for these animals, and just seeing them in their natural environment, and just seeing how they communicate. And it's just, I mean, the Alberta wild horses, I mean, many people in Alberta are very familiar with them, and I just think they're amazing animals. And for me, it's all about when I go out there, you have to have quite a bit of luck on your side, because there's going to be times where you go out and you don't see any, or you see one or two, but you're not going to be able to get any pictures because perhaps it's the setting. Or for me, it's all about being in the right place at the right time when you photograph wild horses, because you can't do much planning, if any at all, because you have to take what's given to you in terms of the opportunity in that moment and work within it. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, with the way that you go about approaching wild horses to a certain distance is a big factor, because you don't want to scare them off. You do that, and there goes your photographic moments. But as long as you stay calm and just be yourself, because obviously horses read your energy. When the stallion or the lead mare does acknowledge that you are of no threat to them, then the amount of time that you can spend with these guys is endless. And it's, in my experiences, it's amazing how comfortable many of these bands can feel with you in the presence, and so quickly. And to me, it all comes down to the person who's photographing them and the type of energy that they bring and so on, and how they approach these guys. And I know the biggest thing for me is still anticipating what I feel they may do next. And I know it's difficult to do with wild horses because they're so unpredictable, but if you take in your surroundings and read their body language, and just go by past experiences, going by remembering what has worked in the past and what hasn't, you can get a good feel on what they may do next, and anticipate at least the next few seconds in terms of what kind of pictures you want to get.
How many different areas have you been to as far as photographing the wildies?
Well, I would say it's primarily still one, and that's just west of Sundre. But there's so many small areas. It's such a large area in Alberta that they cover. They cover such a large area that you could go out there and you could spend half a day or an entire day just on one road, because it's so large. And these guys, they're so spread out that, like I said earlier, you just don't know where exactly they are. So you go out there and you have to keep driving, and you do your loops and you cover your roads, and you have your map, and you basically have your route in terms of keeping track of what you have covered and so on. And but for the most part, it's been just west of Sundre. I don't know the exact area, but obviously many Albertans know where Coal Camp Road is. So, and then Coal Camp Road basically is a fairly long stretch, and it's a big, huge loop that if you're to drive out there in normal weather, I'd say it'd probably take a couple hours, I would say, from just going off by memory. And then obviously, there's a lot of detours you can take, like, side roads and so on. But it's an absolutely huge area that I think that it would keep anyone busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like your life is full of adventure, and I'm looking forward to, and I know the listeners and all of your followers are looking forward to seeing more. And I'm going to spend some time looking at your photos, because I'm really curious about. It's hard to follow everything that anybody does, and but part of inviting you on the show is to not only learn where you're going, but also to see where you've been. And I really like the fact that you're so involved in a lot of things with the horses that other people maybe don't want to touch. For example, horse slaughter. I know that you've kind of involved in making awareness for that, and that's something that horses are, like the whole horse community at large, that's something that we should be talking about. And thanks for your voice in that. But Stephen, do you have any parting words today?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank you, Blue Sky Radio, for inviting me back on today. I really enjoyed the first time that I was on here last spring, and it was a no-brainer to be on again when I was invited. And thank you to all my supporters out there who have been such a positive influence along the way. You guys mean a lot more to my development than I think many tend to realize. And other than that, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm just really excited in terms of where I can go from here and the new branches that I can develop and kind of go off onto.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for talking with me here today, and where can people go again to your website? What is the website? Let's repeat the website again.
Sure. The website is www.stephenquon.com, and that's Stephen with a V, Quon.com.
That's awesome. Alrighty, well, have a really great rest of your day, and good luck with all of your future endeavors, and stay in touch with us here at Blue Sky Radio.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
you very much.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.